Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
Feedback Friday, gentlemen. Brian Simmons chimes in. Judd lost his Kwik Trip read. That's why they're late.
Oh, it's right here. But I mean, I had to dig it out. Brian's not entirely wrong, Brian.
In fact,
handwrite them? Do you also handwrite your notes?
Yeah. I get my notes and then and then because if I print them out and read them, I can't like change it. Like I guess I could on the fly, but I prefer to know the copy a little bit.
You could also have a digital, because you have a computer, right? Like you're staring right now into a computer.
Yes.
Just have like a tab open and you could edit.
No, I'm not comfortable with that. Yeah, I could. I'm not comfortable with that. I also could stick it on my phone with my Judd picture.
I love that your picture.
I'm not comfortable with that. I will say this though, boys.
What a narcissist is Judd.
I will say this though, boys. Yesterday, a trip to the office shop near me in the SLP.
That's right.
Minicamp starts next week. Let's just say.
Oh, we got new notebooks.
And a multi colored pen to try to separate notes.
Wow.
Offense probably green.
I haven't seen one of those
different colors
so
of
long.
ink.
Wow. It's been a long time since I've seen one of those.
Red for defense, I think. Green for offense.
I think you should use the red for the red zone drills.
Yeah.
That particular.
The red area. Or would red just be red is like the negative notes?
Well, I was going to actually do red for defense, green for offense, but I could actually do red for the red zone, blue for
defense,
blue for the offense.
Oh,
I don't know. All I'm saying is I'm ready. I'm ready for minicamp. 3 days. It's no accident. 4 notebooks for 3 days.
It's amazing. Yeah, that might not even be
boys,
enough,
gear up.
quite frankly.
Ladies and gentlemen, you gear up.
World's Biggest chimes in on YouTube and says, Judd burns the old camp notes so they don't fall into evil hands. You don't want a
I will say
Bears
this.
scout picking up those notes.
I get calls. Matt LaFleur, once in a while. Dan Campbell. Hey, can I see your notes? I'm like, no, you can't see my notes.
You probably couldn't even read them.
No, you couldn't. No, this is no. You are correct about that. You cannot read them.
So people want those Kwik Trip notes. Why don't you give us the Kwik Trip notes here before we dive into Feedback Friday?
They're new, actually. They're new because guess what? Kwik Trip has an exciting promotion going on. They want you to gear up for Kwik Trip's Mountain Dew Quick Climb, where each sip gets you closer to the summit. Now through August 17th, play each day for free in the Kwik Rewards app and score bonus plays with every eligible item that you grab, like an ice cold Pepsi, a Mountain Dew, Gatorade or Propel, Rockstar, Pure Leaf. Grab one with a hot food item and earn 2 bonus plays. Every week, someone's going to cash in. Each week, the prize climbs by $5,000. The one player who reaches the top is going to win. Get this $250,000 cash. Can buy a lot of notepads with that. Open your Kwik Rewards app and get climbing for a chance to win with Kwik Trip and Mountain Dew. No purchase necessary. See full rules at kwiktrip.com/sweepstakes. That last part must read. So don't stop me. I'm not going to stop that last part. It's a legal read.
Oh, you just finished it, or you have another?
No, I just did it.
Oh, okay.
No, I just read that last part, but I don't often get copy that says at the end, you got to read this. Must read. Yes. How about that?
I've got a couple Feedback Friday notes here that are must read, starting with this one from Jim G. Yes, Jimmy Garoppolo has chimed in here
My guy.
with his thoughts. So he says, recently I met JJ McCarthy at a card show in Michigan.
Oh, nice.
He even sent a picture in. Nice picture of Jim and JJ smiling for the camera.
Cool.
This may be a bit of a Captain Obvious take, but I can report back to Purple Daily that JJ McCarthy is truly a nice guy. Yes, he was really cool to me, but more importantly, I got feedback from the staff that was working the event. I was waiting in line, and I mentioned to a guy behind me that, hey, they always say don't meet your heroes, right? And a staff member overheard me say this and said, you won't have to worry about this one. The staff member went on to say that JJ McCarthy arrived early for the event, was genuinely nice and accommodating to everyone behind the scenes, And he told me he's been working these shows for 15 years, and JJ McCarthy was one of the nicest athletes he's ever worked with. He said most of them are nice to the patrons, but many treat the staff terribly. What are your thoughts?
I'm not surprised. I think he's genuinely, and I will always use the disclaimer that we do not know these people personally, but just as far as his presence goes, and as far as I see him treat people at the Vikings, I think he's a nice kid. I think it's legit. I think he's secure enough in who he is, partially because of what he's been through with depression battles and things like that. Mm-hmm. I think he's secure enough in who he is that he doesn't have to try to put on a front.
Yeah, I will echo what you said, which is you don't ever you think athletes, and they might be different front facing than they are behind the scenes, and there's plenty of examples of those throughout Minnesota Vikings and Minnesota sports history. But I've heard several different stories, not just from Jim G here, but I've heard other stories that we haven't even brought to the show about the way that JJ interacts with and treats people behind the scenes. Because there are people in that industry that fans love, that are great in front of the cameras when the lights are on. They're entertaining. Maybe they're great on social media, but behind the scenes, pardon my French, Dex here for the radio, but they're assholes. And they treat people poorly. And part of, you have to be a good enough athlete and processor of defenses and make the throws and all those things before your personality ever really comes into play. But I also feel like at that position, you have to be a guy that is a gravitational pull for your teammates. You have to be a guy that can bring people together, a connector. There's a certain type of personality a quarterback has to have if the team is going to maximize and if that quarterback is going to maximize. And to this point, most of, if not everything we've heard about JJ McCarthy behind the scenes kind of tracks with what Jim G just said. What are you like in the moments where there's no cameras, no one's watching, it's just you and some random people at a card show in Michigan? Because your true self would tend to come out, I would think, in that situation. And this seems to be JJ McCarthy's true self.
It's like sports dad. I mean, behind the scenes, I'm a pain in the ass. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
I feel like you're pretty level, you're pretty much the sports dad across the board.
Where are my nachos? Where am I? Do you know who I am? I want my nachos.
I want to know what cards he's looking at. I know he's probably there as...
No, he's signing, right?
He's signing. Yeah. But I wonder also if he's into
McCarthy
cards.
wasn't... I don't think McCarthy was into the cards. It was just he was signing autographs.
A lot of young guys, young guys are in the cards now.
Hey, by the way,
JJ, let me know.
He's dude. Just you could probably DM him. I mean, he's very he's a fan of you. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We've shared some DMs. He seems like a good guy from our interactions too. So maybe he's a card guy. You should hit him up.
Yeah.
See,
he is or was a hockey player, and I will say this: hockey players do tend to have a wild side, but as a rule, they're also very well behaved people.
Yeah, what's JJ's wild side?
Yeah. Well, he's a young kid. Who knows?
Stayed up past 10-15 watching Netflix.
That's the funny thing is, though, we will take an incident, and then it's that's how the person is remembered. And it's okay, I think I was probably a decent guy at 23, but did I do some stupid, really probably unnecessarily mean things? Absolutely.
You've never been out in mid-May in North Loop and seen the Wild on their Bender post first round playoff exit runs, because those guys like to have a little fun when the postseason comes out.
I heard
numerous times.
I heard they started this year at Brits, and that it got very dicey. Well, I mean, by dicey, I mean the booze was flowing, and you're right though. At that point in time, you can have some intriguing situations.
No. And if there's a franchise that has practice with first round exit,
we're done already?
Yeah, they can pretty much mark that second week in May or first week in May on their calendars every year. Let's go to Gavin Suska, who says, question about all the talk surrounding the backup quarterback. Why does Mr. Zulgad think that this team can compete with a backup quarterback? So we've had discussions about what. Things happen. What's your contingency plan? Is Sam Howell a good enough contingency plan?
Sure.
They haven't been able to win a playoff game with a starter under the KOC regime, let alone a backup. Sure, the Case Keenum run was fun in 2017, but you can't lean on that small of an instance or sample size in which a backup catches fire. The perfect example is the 2023 season. Kirk gets hurt, and the team rallies, quote-unquote, around Josh Dobbs and Nick Mullins to win 4 more games than they should have won, and Danielle Hunter winds up staying and walking to free agency for free. It kind of ruined their chances to maybe make their team better. If they win 3 or 4 less games, they get a second or third rounder for Hunter, they're sitting with more ammunition, blah, blah, blah. So he's basically saying, why have a contingency plan behind McCarthy? If something happens to McCarthy, just lean into the tankness of it all. My comeback would be, this team is a lot better than the team 2 years ago. The roster is so much better than it was 2 years ago, right? They're not bad enough to be like the 5th overall pick.
Mr. Zolgad doesn't have to answer this question because you just said it. Yes. Like, if McCarthy goes down, you cannot convince me that anyone is going to say, season's over. Like, if that's what you say, you've got, and plus, you signed some vets who you don't know if you are going to get more than a year from. Hargrave, Allen, Ryan Kelly. Like, he's not young, and he's had injury problems. So, yeah, this is the difference between that team as far as the personnel goes and this team, I think, are drastic.
Yeah.
And the other thing, though, is also, okay, let's talk about contingency plans. Dobbs was not a contingency plan. You had to go get him. Like, you basically, Mullins was hurt, and you said, okay, and we don't really trust him totally. So I don't see how you could feel comfortable if by, I don't know, halfway through camp, if KO's like, Howell's not the guy. I don't see this team saying, okay, well, that's cool. If McCarthy gets hurt, who cares? So,
well, yeah, I think, and here's Lucas in the YouTube comment section. Thor said it yesterday. If JJ goes down, the Vikings are cooked. I disagree with Thor, and I disagree with that premise. And in like thinking about it more here with these Feedback Friday questions. First of all, Case Keenum is not the only example of a backup quarterback stepping into a really good Vikings roster and carrying that team deep.
Or a team.
Or a team.
Nick Foles would like a word with us.
Correct. Nick Foles was the Super Bowl MVP, backup quarterback. Yeah. Randall Cunningham was brought in at like age 36 as an afterthought backup veteran presence to younger Brad Johnson.
Yep.
He gets injured. He has to play now. Literally pioneers the highest scoring offense in NFL history. The next year, Cunningham ages out in like week 2. Jeff George steps in as a viable backup, takes that team to double-digit wins and second round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
There's so many different. I'm probably missing a couple examples in Vikings history too, let alone other teams. Last year, no, they didn't go to the NFC Championship game, but they brought in Sam Darnold to be the backup and the contingency plan for JJ McCarthy. He puts up one of the greatest quarterback seasons in Vikings. They won 14 games with Sam Darnold.
Yep. Well, in 2005, Ticey's last year, Culpepper gets hurt. They're actually not playing well in Carolina. Brad Johnson, as the backup, almost got him to the playoffs.
Yeah.
But that's not. But furthermore, I guarantee you, with the Vikings roster, like you can say McCarthy gets hurt, they're done, and you can believe that. That's fine. But that's not how the team thinks either.
Also,
that's not how teams think.
Yes. Also, Gus Frerotte came in for Tavares Jackson in 2008. They went like 11 and they go like 8-3 and then in those games and then 10-6 on the season and hosted a playoff game.
Yep.
Again, the team would not be bad enough, even if you put like Sam Howell out there. This team is still winning minimum 7-8 games with a questionable quarterback behind center because of the defense and the weapons and the system and everything.
And this is why the backup quarterback decision is important. Exactly why.
Yeah.
But yeah, the teams don't think of it. If you do what the Vikings did, which is go spend the most or the second most in free agency in the entire league, teams don't think, well, we're building this thing, but if the starting QB goes down, and by the way, the starting QB hasn't played a game yet, we're cooked. That's not how teams think, and it shouldn't be. The Vikings should be competitive this season no matter what.
Aaron Bialke. emails in here, Feedback Friday. By the way, thank you guys for hanging out with us on a Friday morning in the dead of the off season. If you are here on the Purple Daily YouTube channel and you haven't already, please click that like button and the subscribe button. You can help us keep growing this incredible community of Vikings fans. This is the place to be all throughout the off season. Judd's camp notes. We've got some other fun rank. We got the top 20 Vikings episode coming at some point in the next few weeks. Also, starting next week, we are going to be live on the brand new Flagrant Howls YouTube channel. By live, I mean like episodes pouring out on a regular basis. So we just launched a separate standalone Flagrant Howls YouTube channel and community. 1,500 people have already clicked that subscribe button. So before we've even posted an episode. So thank you guys. We've got the Score North Twin Show channel, the O-Line Committee channel, and then the Score North channel too. So we're trying to grow this thing here at Score North. Aaron Bialke says, as always, love the off-season content. Would love to make a bold prediction. Despite facing most of the best quarterbacks in the league this year, the Vikings defense will be top 3 by the end of the season. We are returning most players from last year and have continued to add Brian Flores-type players, particularly on the defensive line and in the cornerback room. What are your thoughts? They do play a tough schedule. A lot of good offenses.
Top 3
and
scoring?
quarterbacks.
What do you think the top 3? Because I mean, like yards.
Specify.
Yards is great. Scoring is my goal. Top 3. If everybody
I'll get you where they were last year. So they were, in terms of yards per play.
Yep.
They were tied for 9th. In terms of scoring defense, I think they were tied for 5th. They were standalone fifth best scoring defense last year.
Mm-hmm. So yes, top 3, very possible, very possible. Here's the thing that when I go out for that camp, those 3 days in the sweltering heat next week, just for you folks, the thing that I am the most curious about defensively, 2 things. One is the cornerbacks, because I think they might be. I think next week will be a big step towards, are we comfortable with the room as is?
Yeah.
And the other one is not just the new additions to the defensive line, but also the rotation. Redmond now is Levi Drake Rodriguez going to take a step, which is a possibility. You've got Harrison Phillips, Hargrave, Allen. What you have now is a real rotation of guys. Because I don't feel like, I mean, they definitely had bodies last year, but I don't feel like it was a real rotation. So could I see them top 3 in scoring? Absolutely.
I think the most fascinating defensive statistic or metric last year was that the Vikings defense, with one of the worst interior defensive pressure rate, like just in terms of organic pressure interior guys, they were kind of just backups and jags. They were not good at that part of defense. But as a team, the Vikings had the 6th best pressure rate in the NFL, getting after opposing quarterbacks, in part because they led the league in blitz percentage. They blitzed on almost every other defensive snap last year. So can they find a way with Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave to dial that blitz rate way back, ramp the pressure rate up, or keep it and allowing better coverages? Because when you're sending 5 or 6 to get the pressure, well, that's where like the Matthew Staffords, the Jared Goffs, who have seen all those looks. Oh, you're going to send 6? Cool. I'll just literally throw a pass over everyone's head, 10 yards over the line of scrimmage. Boom. Right. Now we get yards after the catch. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Boom.
So what you're saying is, can you show blitz, have blitz expected, but then not blitz, not come? You drop back instead, and now the quarterback's like, wait, I thought he wasn't going to be there.
Dude, I mean, Cook.
And the ball's picked.
Cook, sports dad.
I'm excited for the season, FYI.
You know who else is excited for the season? Our guy, friend of the show, Ross Tucker. So the Ross Tucker episode from Monday, the feedback keeps pouring in here. So I'm going to read you 2 different notes.
Here we go.
From different ends of the feedback spectrum here. And then you give me your final thoughts after a week of being hammered by our audience. Can we be done with
Ross after that? Poor
Ross. Hey,
Thor,
I think Thor just recorded a podcast with him like an hour ago.
He did. Good point. Okay, we'll talk about that with Thor.
So we'll start with Thick Freakness, who chimes in and says, I'm such a big Purple Daily fan. and the excuses for the Ross Tucker interview are so disheartening, I might have to reevaluate which shows I spend my limited time on. Phil said, would you rather us push back at him and relitigate something from January, or would you rather him tell a funny story about Jeff George? I would rather you push back at him so that a brain-dead take doesn't make the national football news dump and negatively impact this team that you cover. Purple Daily wants... Let's see here. Oh, no. Then he says, Judd said, what Ross Tucker said reflects what a lot of people outside the market are saying, folks. Calm down. That's exactly why you should push back. The national narrative makes no sense and should be challenged, which we do on the show every day. Purple Daily wants more national guests and more attention to their channel so they won't rock the boat with the guest no matter what dumb thing the guest says. I always appreciated the entertainment and the journalistic integrity of Purple Daily, but if we're just going to dull the journalistic edge for clicks, count me out.
Okay, where should we start with that one? First of all, we don't do a ton of guests. We're not concerned about that. I'll speak for myself. And by the way, the second part of
I'm going to speak for Declan, actually.
I'm just going to speak for myself. As far as what Ross said, the second part where he said that he basically thinks I think he said the Bears, Packers, and Lions are going to be good. I would not push back against, because that is a perception of a lot of people. And if that's what you think, it's fair. Now, we can discuss it and debate it, but my point is, I did give thought in real time to pushing back on the McCarthy thing and made the decision it wouldn't be worth it. Maybe I made a mistake. So that's my thought.
We have never been a show, by the way, that has ever just blown rainbows and sunshine up your you-know-what. That is not really how we go about things. Now, when things deserve praise and things that maybe are being slept on, we will certainly talk about. But we've never been a show that's just going to completely pump the tires of where a team stands, whether it's the 2025 Vikings or a previous one. We can disagree with Ross, but we also like to bring on different perspectives. Hell, I bring on Vikings fans every week. I know last Sunday's episode of Ventline, I had a guest on who was kind of down on what Kwesi has done. Audience didn't like that either. This is a space where we're going to talk about other people's opinions. We're going to talk about other things. And at times, I know it might be hard to hear because the majority of people hearing this are diehard Vikings fans, which we obviously appreciate. But we also are, I think, a show, and I'll speak for everyone, that we like to hear and give different perspectives and allow people who have different perspectives to voice those opinions too.
Yeah. I'll just say two things. One, to Judd, Judd kind of reflected there. I would say if we could do the interview over again, the only thing that I would change, and it's a big thing, is when he said, because Ross is super plugged into the league, like that dude has sources, and he's not a reporter per se, but he's very plugged into the league and people. He's in production meetings with his Westwood One and CBS work. Like he's very, very, very plugged into the NFL. So when he says with confidence, oh, the Vikings were looking for either Darnold or Daniel Jones to come in and compete for a starting job, what I would like to do is go back and clarify. Are you saying that based on the headlines that you're reading or based on the conversations you're having behind the scenes? Because we see and view it differently being immersed in this and covering it on a day-to-day basis. I would have asked for some clarity on, is this an opinion or is this kind of rooted in the information that you are trading and dealing with behind the scenes? But to the last point of, or one of these points, the thick freakness email, which is, or I think this is a YouTube comment, but great screen name, by the way, Thick Freakness, where he says, I'd rather you push back on a brain-dead take that doesn't make the national football news dump and negatively impact the team that you cover. On no planet does Ross Tucker's opinion or commentary or anyone's, quite frankly, about the Vikings negatively impact them in this way. Like if he thinks a certain thing about Darnold or whatnot, that may crack the walls at TCO Performance Center, but it does. Like JJ McCarthy's not going to sleep thinking, "Oh my gosh, did they really want Sam Darnold?"
Yeah,
It does not impact them all whatsoever. Chris Burke chimes in here and says, "As always, appreciate the show. Following up about fans being triggered by what Ross Tucker said. Respectfully, how soft and sheltered are the listeners? Look at the Vegas odds. Look at the Vikings openly contemplating multiple other quarterback moves this offseason, including Rodgers, by the way, who thankfully just went to the Steelers, and now that whole thing can be put to bed.
Exactly.
There's nothing that he said that was off base, uninformed, or incorrect. In my opinion, giving Thor a platform for his McCarthy fetish and constant hyperbole fetish does a disservice to the listeners. I mean, partially as a result, the show has featured consistent and ongoing comparisons with McCarthy to Patrick Mahomes' second year, when a not insignificant portion of the audience is expecting McCarthy to be Mahomes. It might be time to slow down the hype train. It's the offseason and understandably a time when there should be optimism coming off a 14-win year, but it's also probably good to let the audience know Vegas still has the line at 8.5. And he kind of continues here. So I always appreciate the solid work in the presumably challenging offseason. I appreciate guests bringing a national perspective, whether it's positive or negative. So those are two different
Beautiful.
views.
Love to hear it. Love to hear the feedback.
Declan, why don't you provide some feedback about the Meadows at Mystic, if you could?
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful day. Beautiful weekend here coming up to for golf. In fact, we got a note. Got a note from my guy Brady. Brady was hitting the links. Hey, played the Meadows at Mystic Lake. We're gonna get him on write that down in July. But he was playing the Meadows. You should play the Meadows. If you're a Purple Daily listener or fan, whether you're in the metro, whether you live out of state, golfthemeadows.com. It's about 30 minutes south of the Twin Cities. Great little spot. Go to golfthemeadows.com to book that tee time.
Maybe book a reservation after your round at Butcher and the Boar in the North Loop in Minneapolis. Get your meat sweat on, Judd.
Sounds absolutely perfect, because guess what? You're going out golfing. It's a gorgeous day, right? And then it's like, well, let's go down to a Twins game. And I'm going to tell you right now, on a gorgeous day, there's no better place to hang in the North Loop than the new patio at the Butcher and the Boar. We're talking great craft cocktails. As Phil just said, we are talking some of the best smoked meats, hand-cut steaks, and fresh seafood in town as well. Perfect for stopping before a game or going downtown, North Loop, just to hang out on a gorgeous summer night at Butcher and the Boar. The new patio, it's massive, it's fun. Give it a try.
Amen. Okay, let's see here. We've got about 30 more Ross Tucker comments we're going to go through here right now. So, I'm just kidding. David in Minneapolis says, "Hey, Phil, Dex, and Sports Dad. I've called in before, but I just want to say that your Feedback Friday episodes give me so much joy. I'm a mental health nurse practitioner, and while I love my job and my clients inspire me, listening to the Friday podcast feels like listening to longtime friends catching up. You always brighten my day and get me ready for the weekend. I've been a fan since the ballsy billboard days of 1500 ESPN. It's fun to see you guys all grow over 15 years. That is an OG listener.
That's
there.
a good,
David in Minneapolis.
Thank you very much. Ballsy.
Was Ballsy you and me?
Mm-hmm.
Or was that Royce and Matt?
you.
It was you and me?
It was
No,
you two.
It was us two. I think it was the first campaign that was done after we were partnered up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Phil in his suit coat, Judd in his sweater vest. Not sweater vest. More like a
Sweater.
It's more like a.
It was a nice sweater.
Just a
It was
sweater.
a sweater.
Yeah.
Just a sweater.
Are
Yeah.
those aren't like on the internet, are they?
I have tried to find these on the internet for years.
Because I did billboards with Dubé when he started, and then with you, and I think that was the first Ballsy one.
I think we have there's like billboard mock-ups, those small ones. I think there's got to be one somewhere.
There's somewhere.
In the Hubbard offices.
Yeah.
But the backstory is it was 2014, early 2014, that Judd and I were paired up to do a 4-hour talk show on ESPN Twin Cities, and they had us do these photo shoots every few years. I think we're probably overdue to do another one, boys. We should. It's been a few years, but they had us do it was probably 30 or 40 minutes of, okay, stand back to back.
Yeah.
Now hold a football. Now smile, act goofy, and it's all these different things. And one of them was, okay, look really mean and snarly and serious. And okay, if you could just frown a little bit more.
Flip off the audience.
Yeah. So of all the different options, they chose the mean mug photos that we did and they came up with ballsy as like the tagline of the billboard. So it was pitchfork goatee Mackey. It was scowling Judd, and gigantic red text across these billboards in Minneapolis that said ballsy 1500 ESPN.
You know what? Our buddy Tom Roller, 1037 AM, he brings up a good point because we were also hometown guys, not homers.
Yep.
Or maybe that's what it was.
So I think that was us. I think Tom's right. Ballsy must have been me and Dubé then.
Okay.
Because I don't think Fun and I
But it was
ever...
the same. It was the same frowning sort of.
Yeah. I don't think my picture ever changed.
You guys also had koozies that said ballsy. I'm seeing this on Nadine. I just did ballsy Phil Mackey into Twitter, which could be very dangerous. And I found a koozie that just says ballsy and Royce and Mackey and 1500. There's a bunch of them, but we got to find the billboards.
Somebody has
billboards.
HBK 15111 says, "What are we talking about?" Laugh my ass off. Yeah, there's a lot of people I feel like that have like discovered our
listen to us on the radio
in the last 3 years.
You didn't come to AM radio to find us, HBK?
Tommy Roller knows. Tom Roller knows.
Tom Roller, OG again.
Let's see here. Let's go to Chris, who says, "I'm a lifelong Vikings fan since I was 9 years old. My first game I actually sat down and watched was our last Super Bowl appearance in 1977 against John Madden and the Oakland Raiders.
Yep.
I've been enjoying and suffering ever since. I'm writing to find out how I can plan a trip to Minneapolis or Eagan to come and watch training camp and or a Purple Daily event in July or August. I tried submitting information through the Vikings official website, but haven't heard anything back from them. Please respond with any suggestions." Yeah, so they haven't announced their training camp schedule yet, but they will probably toward the end of June.
Yep.
Usually. And so they'll wait like a month. You'll see it, and we'll talk about it on the show here too. And they'll tell you like what days and times the team is practicing. And once that comes out, correct me if I'm wrong, Judd, but you can just like show up and buy a ticket to training camp practice, right? Or do you have to buy them online in
I
advance?
think you buy them online at that point. I think you get them online, but they will not have that option until the schedule is announced. So if you go on now, I think that link is dead for now. So yeah, wait till, my guess is that they'll announce the training camp schedule the last week of June, and that they will then put up the thing. They essentially, they ticket it and they do charge, but I think it's $10. Also, I can tell you this, because I was doing some digging yesterday on the old calendar. The Welcome Back to Football, which is the big day where they have everybody practicing in, is July 26th, which is a Saturday. Ordinarily, the Vikings start training camp right before that. So my guess is they'll report on like Monday the 21st. And then have their first practice on the 23rd.
That feels super early.
Last year it started July 27th. So
yeah. I don't think their first day back. Well, then it might be late in the week of the 20th, because I don't think that the first day of practice is ordinarily the welcome back day. So I wonder if they would report then on the 24th and start the 25th.
Boy,
the point is, it's going to come fast. It's going to come very fast, and it's going to be great.
That's right. The football calendar comes at you fast, folks.
I was asked by Dawn. She's like, "When does training camp start over?" I was like, "It starts soon." So we have clear out the schedule. Clear out the schedule. Guess who ain't going brunching once training camp starts? This guy. No more brunch.
Who's got 2 thumbs and brand new notebooks for training camp? This guy. On the Purple Daily Live events, yeah, we're working on a couple things. My guess is, well, we're working on a really big thing the last couple weeks in August that we've not done since like the first year of Score North in 2019. You guys know what I'm talking about. Well, we were out there visiting the grounds a few days ago.
Oh, I forgot. I just don't.
We haven't announced it yet.
Yeah,
so it's like,
I just don't associate that with us. So I was like, what is he talking about? Because we haven't done that in a while.
Let's just say that we are planning like 7-ish days for you to come and hang out live Purple Daily. Like it's going to be, we'll announce it soon. I don't know if we're 100% ready to announce it, but we're working on some stuff here for late August at a gigantic gathering of Minnesotans.
Let's just say, unlike the last time that this occurred, a beer will be in play for Sports Dad. almost every day.
Is Judd going to kick field goals? Well, we could maybe work on getting a.
We
did wiffle ball one time with Glenn Perkins. It was kind of,
Yeah, I'll kill myself if I try and kick field goals.
I'm convinced I can make one.
Okay,
I'm convinced I can do it.
Then you're up for it.
Yep.
I think isn't there? We did. It was the athlete challenge back in the day. The soccer one we did nearby,
I said I could
like
score
the
a
Harvard
goal.
Building. I don't think there's goalposts over there. We
Yeah, because I think it was during the World Cup, and I said, "How can you not make a free kick?"
Yeah.
And then I tried, and I fell down.
It's very difficult. Yeah. By the way, listener Rob S. turned 55 years old earlier this week. Rob
Hey,
S.
welcome to the club, Rob. My age.
The Double Nickel Club.
Yeah, exactly right. Welcome in.
The Sammy
Prepare
Hager
to be
Club.
sore when you wake up.
Prepare to be sore as you exist. Marissa of the North says, hey guys, I just want to share my recent experience. I'm an artist from the extreme far northern nooks of our great state. This last week, I found myself in the Twin Cities to deliver a large painting to one of my patrons in Minneapolis. We stayed in the western suburbs, and looking for a great place for dinner, Park Tavern popped up in my search. Being a longtime consumer of Purple Daily, Park Tavern ringed quite a familiar sound, of course, with all the different events we've held there. We had a great experience. The chef salad and a 20-ounce Surly Furious hit the spot. Delicious.
Love it.
The staff was so warm and friendly. I feel like you guys are incredibly cities-centric, so I hope you remember that it's Minnesota Vikings. Us miners, trappers, lumberjacks, etc. deserve some love and passion as well. Also, I am proof that your reach is getting through to the broader outstate audience. And lastly, due to our shorter life expectancy, Before I Die carries even greater gravity. Love you guys. I'm a longtime follower. Keep up the good work. Marissa of the North, representing the is it the Pharrell and Wild Minnesotans? And she put, I guess Marissa can't answer my question, but I'm gonna throw her website out. She's an artist. MarissaoftheNorth.art. MarissaoftheNorth.art. If you want to buy some cool art from
Thank you.
a fellow Vikings fan. By the way, it's not like it's Minnesota Vikings, but I think what we have found in the last 5 years, like doing this show and being on YouTube and podcast versus just local radio, it's wild how big this fan base is. Outside of Minnesota, internationally, it's
West Virginia. I keep telling you, there's more Vikings fans. It's unbelievable.
It's crazy. Yeah.
But yes, you're right.
Kudo chimes in. Our buddy Kudo from Seattle and says, as always, super appreciate you guys. Love the show in all its forms. KOC and Kwasi talk a lot about holding the entire organization to a championship standard. Is Matt Daniels, the special teams coordinator, delivering a special teams unit anywhere close to championship standard?
I love this
question. Can you give any data around how Viking special teams overall compared to other units? Again, I think Coach Daniels is well-liked and seemingly very capable, but do you think he's a championship standard special teams coordinator?
I think this season is incredibly important to Matt. And in fact, so the Saturday episode that you were out, Phil, a couple of weeks ago, we actually did 3 key, way too early special teams things to talk about. And one of them was I went through a litany of statistics, advanced metrics that showed that no, the special teams, like the kicking problem is, knock on wood, the kicking problem was addressed, but punting is still not sufficient. There's a lot of things that aren't. I would say this year is critical for Matt. I think if the special teams as a whole does not take a major turn in the right direction, I think that you might have a change, because that is, we probably don't talk about it enough, because if the kicking's okay, like it's not like special teams becomes a primary focus, but it can flip the field quickly. It can certainly cause problems. So that's a great point. I love that question. And I would say no, right now they are not, it's not at a championship standard.
What I want to see is from the sports dad, from Judd's camp notes with those fresh new notebooks and your multicolored pen now. I want to see you holding Matt Daniels' feet to the fire during practice. You stand over there with your multicolored pen, with your field glasses,
The whole thing right here, the Bics.
and you stare at him for an hour and a half at the next practice.
Too much to do.
You document his every move. You make sure he knows
I got too much to do.
that his feet are being held to the fire by Judd's camp notes.
To go back to the top of the show.
Championship standard.
Multicolored pens because I'm watching everything. Sports Dad is omnipresent.
Well, there's got to be a special teams
I'll
color
assign,
in there. Okay.
You know what? I'll get my intern, because I'm sure that I'll have one. I'll get my intern to stare at Matt Daniels the entire time.
Our guy Tom Roller says Judd's already canning the special teams.
I think he's
color.
entering a critical year. I'm not going to lie.
Canning.
I'm not joking. I like Matt, but I think he's entering a critical year. I've talked to Matt before.
Yeah, I mean, hell, like there's a lot. I mean, you can look up and down. Like the punting game has not. I mean, hell, there's a reason why they have a punting competition going on, right? Like they might change their punter. I thought they were kind of underwhelming with the new kick return format too.
I agree completely.
So
yep, exactly right.
All right, let's hear a story here from Igor, and then we'll get to our snake draft of the week on this Feedback Friday. So Igor says, "Hey, Purple Daily team, as we approach the 7th anniversary of my dad's passing, I just wanted to share a story that highlights how much the Vikings meant to our relationship and to our family's journey. My family immigrated to the United States from the Soviet Union in the early 1990s. Like many who came from that part of the world, my dad and his friends were lifelong soccer fans. But over time, they became fascinated with American football, specifically the Minnesota Vikings. What started as a curiosity about American football turned into full-blown fandom for the Minnesota Vikings. They began learning the rules, picking favorite players, and before long, Vikings game days became a sacred ritual. Every Sunday during the season, they'd rotate houses, cook up food, they'd have drinks, and loudly cheer for the purple. My dad and I were incredibly close. We talked every single day, and a big part of our daily conversations centered around the Vikings, off-season roster moves, draft picks, weekly game plans, post-game breakdowns. Those football talks were something I cherished very deeply, and as my dad's health began to decline, he still made time to watch his favorite team. The last Vikings win he ever saw was the Minneapolis Miracle, and the last game he ever saw was the ensuing NFC Championship loss to the Eagles. He passed away in June of that year at just 62 years old, about 3 months before the birth of his first grandchild, my oldest son. Now I have 2 boys of my own, and they've proudly carried on our family's tradition of watching the Vikings. It's the highlight of every week. They've learned the skull chants and how to do the gritty before they could even fully talk, and Go Vikings was one of their earliest phrases. Listening to your show helps me stay connected to the team I love and keeps me up to date with the latest Vikings news, something I used to look forward to sharing with my dad. These days, I share it with my sons instead, and they're always excited to hear what's going on with the team. Thank you guys for all the great content. Keep up the amazing work. The show means more to people than you know."
Thank you. That's very nice.
Thank you, Igor. It's a little dusty in here.
Yep.
A little misty in here.
Yep. Exactly right.
Yeah, I mean, 62. That's the thing. It's like
You never know.
62, man.
Never do know, Phil.
You think? No, you're 55.
I know I am. That's what I told Declan when I turned 50. I told Dex it's the first decade in which you're like, I think I'm going to make it to 60. Not positive.
I'm not sure.
Like at 30 to 40. Don't get me. I mean, yes, tragically people die, but I think you're pretty confident on your 30th birthday about 40. I think you're pretty confident 40 to 50. I think so.
As a guy who just turned 40, I have a healthy respect.
Yep.
A healthy respect.
But once you turn 50, you're like, oh, wow. Oh, huh. Guess I got to be concerned about myself. Ooh, I guess I should do something. I'm going to go lay on the couch.
I'm going to call MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning to keep the temperature regulated. So
you know what?
Be comfortable.
That's important. That's very important because if you're my age, you don't want to be in a hot house. I mean, heck, if you're any age, you don't want to be in a hot house, especially if you have AC and you flip it on because it's going to be hot and humid, and you find out it doesn't work or it's running slowly. That's where MSP comes in. If you need a quick checkup, in other words, if you want to get ahead of a problem, $49 is all it costs for an AC tune-up. That is going to make sure that your air conditioning is functioning great as summer arrives. Repairs, installs, reliable service. That's what MSP is all about. Also, ask about their Total Comfort Club membership too, and know that your system's going to be taken care of all year round. MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air. Give them a call, 651-615-4292, or check out their website, callmsp.com. Call MSP.com. $49 to make sure that your air conditioning works is a bargain.
All right, boys. It is time for the snake draft of the week here on Purple Daily, where we draft things in fun categories. And before we get to this week's official snake draft, which is the best Vikings quarterback seasons. So we will look for a quarterback and a season.
Yep.
And all quarterbacks are eligible. If you want to draft the same quarterback in 3 different seasons, you can do that. Do whatever you want. Give us the results from last week first, Dex.
All right. So, by the way, today is the 50th snake draft.
Oh,
We
wow.
have reached number 50. Historic number in the snake draft. Last week, Judd edged me out. I had a lead for the first couple hours, and then Stop the Steal happened, and Judd edges out with a 41.7% vote in comedy movies. For Judd, that is the 19th win in his 49 snake draft appearances.
Dominance.
I have been looking for my 10th and double-digit win for 2 months. Haven't won since April 4th. A lot of runner-ups in this, and I'm getting pissed off, I'll be completely honest. Phil, you haven't won since April 18th. Judd, was on just a tear in May. Judd, I think, won, let's see here.
Much like the Twins.
1, 2, 3. He won 4 snake drafts. AJ
Wow.
won the other one, but 4 out of the 5 weeks we did a snake draft in May.
AJ got in my way.
Judd cleansed. Well, Andy Pettit was on the mound, man. You put
tough,
AJ
yeah.
on the mound, he wins.
He's the stopper. AJ's the stopper.
He
in
is.
this
It's
rotation.
incredible. So, Judd, you're on a 1-game winning streak. Still with the highest percentage of all time. That was Phil with Thanksgiving foods. The lowest percentage was also Phil with coveted championships.
I'm like Sam Darnold. I could give you 350
Yeah.
and 4 touchdowns. I could also just completely short circuit. And
You
throw
got the
4
Jacksonville game, the Lions game, but then you've got these unbelievable performances.
The Jacksonville game was my ahi tuna crisps.
Yeah.
And the bar foods, I think.
The closest margin of victory was Judd over Phil for the Minnesota State Fair Foods draft, which we did last summer, by 0.4%. So, literally a vote.
Should go back and count that.
Vote.
Love it. So, this week's topics is going to be best Vikings quarterback seasons. Can you remind me what the draft order is
Yeah.
this week?
So, Judd gets the top pick.
Wow, pressure. Judd
I
gets
get the
top
second pick. Phil, you get the wraparound.
Okay. 3-round snake draft. And Judd, you're going to be on the clock here in just a moment. Any questions before we get started here?
No,
No, I don't think so.
no. So we could take the same quarterback. This is just based on the years. So I think I
Yep.
got
So
it.
essentially, Judd is going to be assuming you're going to be drafting. This is kind of telling. You're going to tell us who you think had the
Yep.
best quarterback season in Vikings history right here.
Yep. And it's funny because I was going through some of those seasons this morning after seeing your note about what this was going to be as far as the snake draft. And there was one that came close. I thought it would be closer. Actually, there were 2 that came close. But at the end of the day, the best quarterback season by a Viking is the one that we talked about because he was just at TCO at OTAs.
Wow.
And that is the 2004 39 touchdown, 4,717 yards, Pro Bowl, AP, all those good things. Dante Culpepper, 2004.
Everybody get your roll on. Yeah, 4,700 yards, 39 passing tuds, but then he had a couple rushing tuds, 400 rushing yards.
Yep. And Moss out for a decent chunk of that season, and he still was that good.
Yeah, Nate Burleson kind of cashed in, if I remember correctly, right?
Yep.
So, okay, there, 04 Culpepper. That puts Declan on the clock.
So in my opinion, there's 2 here to pick from. I don't think you can necessarily go wrong with one or the other. But I will probably lean with my pick. I will take the Cunningham 98 season. Oh, wow. I mean, no matter what, if I was going to take Favre, you were going to take Cunningham.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Yep. Both these guys, now Cunningham obviously didn't start the season, but he won he won the MVP award, right? He was
he was second.
Second.
All-Pro. He was an all-pro quarterback,
Yep.
second in
All-Pro.
MVP,
Yep.
Second in Offensive Player of the Year.
Yep.
And Brett Favre, also second in MVP, second All-Pro. Both of them had very comparable seasons. I will give the nod to, at the time, the best offense that was ever recorded with that quarterback. Favre has more of, obviously, the story behind it, which also is very important. So I'm going to guess that's what Phil's taking with the third pick, but I'll take Cunningham with my pick.
Yeah, just to, because I get the back-to-back here, right? Yeah, I get the wraparounds here. So I'm going to, just for the record, I'm going to take with this next pick, 1975 Fran Tarkenton, the NFL most valuable player. That was the third highest scoring offense in the NFL. He led, and again, passing was way harder in the mid-'70s. The rules did not favor quarterbacks, and he was able to keep plays alive with his legs. But he did lead all quarterbacks in total completions and touchdown passes. Had like a 93 passer rating, which anything over like 80 or 85 in that era. A 93 passer rating in 1975 is like having a 105 or 108 passer rating in 2025. So. So 1975 Fran Tarkenton. And then with my next pick, the first pick in the second round, I will take 2009 Brett Favre. 40 years old, 39 years old. The highest passer rating of his Hall of Fame career, 107.2. And he led the Vikings on one of the most incredible runs in franchise history. And in Brett Favre fashion, he pulled the rug out at the most inopportune time. That season was a summation of everything Brett Favre was as a player, as a flawed person, and as an MVP caliber, Hall of Fame caliber player who could also shipwreck a season or a game. Like, all of it was on display in 2009. So give me 09 Brett Favre, and that puts Declan back on the clock.
All right, I'll take another Dante season. I will take the 2000 Dante season.
This is a good one.
It is tied, by the way, for the highest approximate value in Vikings history on Pro Football Reference. He was one of only 19 quarterbacks in 2000 to throw more than 32 touchdowns, plus he rushed in a bunch. I will take 2000 Dante Culpepper.
Yeah. That was, man, because he wasn't particularly, they were kind of giving him the answers to the test in 2000. Yeah. It was just, all right, dude, just one side of the field, you're going to read this, and if it's not there, use your legs and run. But yeah, he was a bowling ball when he would tuck that ball and run it. 40 total touchdowns. Yeah, crazy season. All right, Judd, you get the back-to-back here.
Yeah. This is So we basically have blown through the top 5 seasons.
Yeah.
This is. There's a little. Well, no, there's no. I think we have. I think we have. So I'm gonna go with for my second pick, the feel-good story that we all experienced, the one and done, 2017 Case Keenum.
Yeah. Okay. And any other further thoughts on that, or just you're getting?
No, I'm pivoting right now to my next. No, I'm thinking on the fly because there are some very close.
Okay.
Grouped seasons here. There are some very close seasons here, and I'm trying to decide. Full disclosure, I'm trying to decide if I want a Kirk season or not, and I'm having trouble.
The Kirk disrespect to this point is palpable.
Well,
I just want.
I am torn a little bit here since it's my pick. I can talk about it. I'm torn a little bit here between Cousins' first year under KO, which I thought was, like, statistically not his best year, but was really good. But also, there's a sneaky one here. And you know what? I think, screw it. I think I'm going to leave Kirk off. The disrespect will continue. It will never end, from me at least. I'm going to go with the 1995 Warren Moon season, in which he threw 33 touchdowns.
That's a good one. Yeah, 95 Moon. The team finished, I think, 8-8.
They missed the playoffs for the first time under Denny.
Yeah. But he tied his, again, Hall of Fame career, right? And he tied his career high in 33 touchdown passes. Chris Carter caught 122 passes that year. And if I remember, I think 3 different receivers had at least 70 catches on that 1995 Vikings team. Carter, Jake Reed, and Amp Lee also out of the backfield.
Oh, yeah. Amp Lee, former Niner.
Had 70-plus catches. Fourth best offense in the NFL in 1995, but the defense was not very good.
Yeah. Yep. So I will cap this off by taking 1995 Warren Moon.
Okay, that puts Declan back on the clock for his final pick.
All right, so I got 2 guys kind of not recent, but within the last 20 years. I don't have a older school one. Give me 1986 Tommy Kramer.
Oh, man.
So Tommy Kramer in 1986 led the league in passer rating, led the league in average yards per attempt, was second in the AP on the AP team, 24 touchdowns, 3,000 yards. Obviously, Tommy is right up there with Vikings quarterbacks. Kramer hasn't made the list yet, so I'll take 1986 Tommy Kramer.
Wow. And you guys are putting me in a spot here.
Well, you got the back-to-back. The Tarkington one I was hoping would fall. The 75 Tarkington I was hoping would fall through the cracks.
Well, he won the MVP.
I was going to.
He won the MVP.
I'm the only one who was alive for it.
Well, there's
damn it.
YouTube. I watch YouTube. There's two on my big board here. Kirk Cousins, 2022, 8 fourth quarter comebacks, which tied an NFL record.
His stats weren't his best, but that alone to me is the key.
Yeah. And you know me, I am one of his biggest supporters throughout his Vikings tenure. So it feels like an obvious pick here. But I'm sorry, I have to go with 2024 Sam Darnold with my final pick here. Third most passing yards in Vikings history, second most touchdowns, and 5 game-winning drives of his own. Give me Sam Darnold, which means of the 9 draft picks, the greatest Vikings quarterback seasons of all time, nobody drafted a Kirk Cousins season, despite all of the stats that he put up in his 6 years.
I thought long and hard before I went with Moon 1995.
I don't think it's wrong. I had Moon 6th on my big board. I did have the 2022 Kirk season. I had kind of tied with Warren Moon there, but Darnold was incredible last year. Darnold, you could argue that was one of the. You said that the first 5 that came off the board. You could argue though that statistically, Sam Darnold is right in there with the Dante 2000 season. I mean, he was flirting with an MVP for a while. Yeah. So we wind up with, oh wow, HBK chimes in again. No 2025 JJ McCarthy.
No Pookie. Pookie got left off. Sorry.
So here are the teams, and the voting will be available on the Score North Twitter page or X page here early afternoon on this Friday. You can vote. Judd winds up with 04 Culpepper, 17 Case Keenum, and 95 Warren Moon. Dex winds up with 98 Cunningham, 2000 Dante Culpepper, and 86 Tommy Kramer. And then I wind up with 09 Brett Favre, 75 Fran Tarkenton, and 2024 Sam Darnold. The Cousins Crusaders are in shambles.
You like that, Andre? 1, 2, 3.
The disrespect. Some people are going to say we did this just specifically to stick it to Kirk one more time.
The only non-crossed off name left on my master list is 1969 Joe Kapp, who was second in MVP voting. That's the only one, but I couldn't pull the trigger on that one. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if Judd's extremely hot run here throughout the month of May continues into June, or does he get dethroned?
I might get dethroned here. This is a tough one. Yeah.
Lucas says the Brad Johnson disrespect is palpable.
Hey, Brad did well for himself. 12th round pick.
The Gus Frerotte disrespect.
Yeah.
He was my guy, but I couldn't take him. He was my guy.
You know what? I did consider, well, honorable mention, I guess, the year that Sam Bradford came in on zero notice and led the league in completion percent. He was completely 72% of his passes with his little floppy sleeves.
And it's never blinking.
I got in a fight on Twitter with somebody with some publication or some website declared the Bradford trade like the worst trade that the Vikings have made.
I saw your tweet about that.
In the last, it's a certain amount of time, 20 years or something. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. Given the circumstances, they had to make that trade.
Yeah, I mean,
that again was a good team.
They're coming off they should have had a home playoff win over Seattle the year before. I mean, that defense was incredible. That defense was in the process of becoming the best defense in the NFL.
Yep.
You know, you don't throw Sean Hill out there. And by the way, Sean Hill played a game and then his arm was cooked. So because he started week 1 against the Titans, if I remember.
I said that trade, it hurt, but that was the right thing to do given the circumstances.
Yeah. All right, the voting is on Twitter, the Score North Twitter/X account, the snake draft of the week here. Plenty more Judd's Camp notes coming at you with those fresh notebooks, the color-changing pen next week. It's mandatory mini camp.
Yep. If you don't show up, your name's going to be on the list. And if you're on the list,
made the list.
You'll be discussed.
Big idiot.
All right, guys. Purple Daily, where we just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. See you.